The night was thick with mist, the silver moon hanging low over the dense forest. Its light spilled through the branches, scattering across the leaves like fragile silver shards. Lyra's heart beat faster with every step she took toward the clearing. Tonight she would face her destiny, her fate sealed since birth by a bond she could not yet understand. The Silver Fang pack had gathered, their shadows long and sharp, circling the ancient stone altar at the center. Kale, the alpha, stood tall before them. His golden eyes shone like molten metal in the moonlight, and his presence carried the weight of the pack's authority. Lyra's stomach churned. She had known this day would come, but knowing and living it were two different things. Her palms were clammy, her breath shallow. "Lyra," Kale said, his voice calm but heavy, "the bond cannot be forced." The crowd fell silent. The wind seemed to pause, waiting. Lyra's chest tightened. The bond, the mark that should have tied them together, burned faintly beneath her skin, a subtle glow only she could feel. The bond was sacred, a symbol of connection chosen by the moon goddess herself. It was meant to unite their fates, to forge strength and loyalty. And yet, Kale continued, stepping closer, "I cannot accept it. Not now, not ever." The words hit Lyra like a winter storm. Around her the wolves shifted uneasily, their low murmurs filling the clearing. Humiliation and disbelief twisted together inside her. She had imagined this moment differently. She had imagined Kale's eyes soft, warm, full of the promise of shared nights and whispered words. Instead, she saw only duty and fear reflected back at her. "You reject me?" Lyra's voice trembled, but it carried over the crowd, clear and raw. Kale's jaw tightened. "I protect my pack. Accepting the bond would put them in danger." "I will not risk it." Lyra's knees buckled. She fell onto the cold stone, shivering from more than the night air. The moonlight traced the curve of the faint mark on her wrist, a mark that had promised love, protection, and destiny. Now it felt like fire against her skin, mocking her. The pack watched, some in sympathy, others in silent judgment. The rejection did not just sting. It cut a wound into her very soul. Lyra wanted to turn away, run, vanish into the forest where no one could see her shame. And yet, even in her despair, a part of her did not leave. A small, stubborn flame whispered she was bound to him whether he acknowledged it or not. That night, Lyra left the clearing in silence, stepping into the dense forest. The mist wrapped around her like a cloak. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she could not stay among the pack. Pain and confusion mixed with a strange, unfamiliar feeling, a pulse beneath her skin like the steady beat of a hidden drum. The dreams began that night. At first they were faint, shadows behind her eyes. She dreamt of a wolf with golden eyes, a wolf that carried Kale's strength and anger and sorrow all at once. It came to her silently, circling her in the dream world as if waiting for something, and then softly the wolf pressed against her. Its paw left a mark on her arm, not painful but burning, leaving a crescent glow that lingered even after she woke. Lyra awoke with her heart racing. Her sheets were tangled, her skin warm where the mark had appeared. She tried to convince herself it was just a dream, the result of her fear and longing. But as she looked toward the window, the moon seemed to smile down at her knowingly. The nights that followed brought no relief. Every dream carried the same wolf. Every mark pressed itself a little deeper into her skin. Sometimes it appeared as warmth, sometimes as a faint ache, but always it reminded her that the bond she thought broken was far from gone. Kale, too, felt the pull. Unbeknownst to Lyra, he had awoken each night with the same ache beneath his chest, the same glowing crescent pressed into his skin by forces beyond his understanding. The wolf inside him, a creature of instinct, power, and ancient magic, stirred. It searched for her scent, howling silently in the dream world. By day, Kale's hands itched for her, his mind filled with fleeting images of Lyra, her trembling lips, her defiant eyes, the way she fell and yet never truly broke. Lyra wandered through the forest, seeking answers in the ruins of forgotten temples and sacred groves. One evening, she found herself at the edge of an abandoned shrine, moss covering the stones, vines twisting like silver serpents. The air was thick with the scent of earth and magic. She knelt, touching the carved symbols etched into the altar. A whisper floated to her, soft as the wind, echoing from the shadows. "The bond is alive. The moon sees you both." Lyra drew back, startled. Her heartbeat thundered in her chest. The bond, the wolf, Kale himself, Everything was tangled in threads she did not yet understand. And yet, for the first time, she did not feel fear. She felt purpose. That night, the dream changed. The wolf came again, golden eyes glowing brighter than before. It circled her slowly, tilting its head as if studying her. And then, in a voice that was not a voice, the wolf spoke. "You cannot hide. He cannot leave you. You are his as he is yours." Lyra woke with a start, tears wetting her cheeks. The crescent mark glowed faintly on her wrist, pulsing like a heartbeat. She touched it, and a warmth spread through her veins, steadying her, warning her, calling her forward. She realized something terrifying yet beautiful. Cale's rejection had not ended their connection. It had made it stronger in ways neither of them could yet comprehend. The forest whispered around her, alive with secrets. Somewhere beyond the trees, she sensed Cale's wolf prowling, searching, struggling against the chains that bound it. The power of the moon of the goddess had chosen them, and the world, dark and unforgiving, would soon demand that they answer the call together, or risk losing themselves entirely. Lyra knew one truth above all others. The night of rejection was only the beginning. The bond would not let her go. The wolf would not let her rest. And Cale, whether he understood it or not, was part of a story that the moon had written long before either of them were born. As the first light of dawn filtered through the trees, Lyra rose from the mossy ground. She looked at the crescent mark on her wrist and whispered to herself, determination sharpening her voice. "I will find him. I will understand him. I will face whatever the moon has planned." And far away in his own den, Cale woke with a start, golden eyes wide and panicked. He reached for his chest, feeling the crescent mark pressed deep into his skin. The wolf within him trembled, restless and hungry. He did not yet know the meaning of the bond, but he felt it, unrelenting and true. And in that moment he realized something he had never admitted aloud. Rejecting her had not freed him. It had only begun a chain of events that would bind them together in ways he could not yet escape. The forest around Lyra seemed to shiver, the wind carrying a faint echo. A growl, a whisper, a promise. The bond had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The days after her first night marked by the wolf were restless. Lyra moved through the forest like a shadow, her senses alert, every rustle and whisper sharpening her awareness. The crescent mark on her wrist glowed faintly, as though it pulsed with the same heartbeat that now haunted her dreams. Each night the wolf returned, closer, stronger, and its presence was no longer gentle. It carried urgency, a warning she could not yet understand. By day, the forest seemed to murmur with secrets. Trees leaned toward her, as if guiding her steps. Moss and lichen glimmered in unnatural patterns, symbols she recognized from the abandoned shrine she had visited. The carvings had hinted at a bond older than the pack, older than the moon, older even than Cale himself. A bond meant to endure trials, curses, and pain. Lyra's path led her deeper into the woods, into places the Silverfang pack rarely traveled. Shadows thickened around her, yet she felt no fear. In fact, the closer she moved to the forest heart, the more the pull of the bond strengthened. Every beat of her pulse echoed with the wolf's presence. Every breath whispered Cale's name, though he was still miles away. One evening, as the sky turned the color of iron and blood, Lyra stumbled into a grove hidden beneath the roots of an ancient oak. At its center stood a pedestal, carved from black stone, its surface etched with a crescent moon glowing faintly in the twilight. She knelt before it, tracing the symbol with her fingertips, feeling warmth spread through her veins. The symbol was familiar, like the mark she bore. But here it seemed to hum with an energy far older, far more powerful than she had ever felt. "You've come," a voice whispered. Lyra startled, spinning toward the source. A figure emerged from the shadows, a priestess draped in robes the color of midnight. Her eyes reflected the pale moonlight, calm and knowing. "The bond," the priestess said, stepping closer, "is alive. It cannot be broken by rejection, nor by fear. What you feel, the wolf that comes to you in dreams, it is more than a reflection of Cale. It is the bond itself, calling you both to what you must become." Lyra's voice shook. "But he rejected me. He said it would harm his pack." The priestess shook her head slowly. His fear is not yours to bear, but it does not undo what fate has set. The moon has chosen you both to heal an ancient rift between wolves, gods, and humans. The bond is not punishment. It is protection. It is warning, and soon it will demand a choice. That night the wolf came again in her dreams, but it was different. Its golden eyes glowed with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. It circled her, pressing close until its fur brushed her skin. Its touch was warm, comforting, but beneath it ran a sharp edge of warning. Lyra felt the crescent mark flare brightly against her wrist. "You cannot run," the wolf said, its voice low and resonant. "He is lost, and the curse grows stronger. Only you can call him back." Lyra awoke with a gasp, heart hammering. Blood rushed to her face as she realized the truth of the words. Kyle was not rejecting her because he did not care. He was protecting her from something far darker than she had imagined. And now, that darkness was stirring. The next days were filled with signs. The pack whispered in fear, rumors spreading like wildfire. Kale's moods became unpredictable. His eyes, golden and fierce, were haunted by something unseen. Sometimes, the wolf would slip from his control even during the day, prowling through the forest, searching, restless. The elders feared that the alpha had been touched by the old magic, that he was no longer entirely his own master. Lyra, torn between fear and determination, followed the pull of the bond. Her dreams grew more vivid each night, each marking deeper, leaving impressions not just on her skin but on her mind. She could hear Kale's thoughts in fleeting flashes, his struggle, his sorrow, his longing. And in return she sent her own thoughts into the dream, calling to him, coaxing him back, feeling the bond grow stronger with every attempt. One night, as the moon rose full and silver, Lyra's dream changed entirely. She stood on the edge of a cliff bathed in moonlight. The wolf appeared, but now it was no longer alone. Shadows moved around it, dark and twisted, shapes that whispered of curses, of broken promises and pain carried for generations. The wolf growled, pressing its body against hers in protection. And then, she heard Kale's voice, not in words but in feeling, a desperate raw pull that made her knees buckle. "The curse," the wolf whispered. "He carries it within him. Rejecting you was meant to shield you, but the magic will not be denied. You must meet it, you must save him." Lyra awoke, trembling, sweat cooling on her skin. The mark glowed faintly, and she pressed her hand against it, feeling warmth spread through her veins. It was more than a mark. It was a tether, a lifeline, a warning. By the following morning she had made her decision. Lyra gathered what little supplies she had and began her journey toward the Shadow Vale, a place forbidden and feared even by the bravest of the pack. It was said to be a realm where the boundaries between dream and reality blurred, where spirits of wolves and gods lingered, and where the cursed walked freely. Every step closer to the veil made her heart pound. Every shadow seemed to watch her. The wind carried whispers, echoes of the wolf, echoes of Kale, echoes of a fate neither of them could escape. When Lyra reached the edge of the veil, the air was thick with silver mist. Trees twisted unnaturally, their branches clawing at the sky. The crescent mark on her wrist burned bright, guiding her path. And there, in the center of the mist, she saw him. Kale, or at least what remained of him. His form shifted, half human, half shadow, golden eyes glowing with pain and longing. He tried to speak, but no words came. The wolf within him had taken control, driven by the same bond that marked Lyra. It circled her, low growls vibrating in the air, protective, yet desperate. Lyra's heart ached at the sight. He had tried to reject her, tried to spare her from the curse, and yet here he was, consumed, lost, tethered to her by the very force he had feared. "I'm here," Lyra whispered, stepping forward. "I will not leave you. You cannot lose yourself, not while I am here." The wolf paused, golden eyes locking with hers. And for a moment the wind stilled, the mist froze, and time seemed to hold its breath. The bond pulsed between them, bright and unstoppable, pushing back the shadows that threatened to consume Kale entirely. Then, suddenly, the wolf let out a low, mournful howl, and the shadows surged, whispering threats, visions of pain and loss. Lyra's mark flared violently, her veins burning with energy as she reached out, both hands glowing with the warmth of the bond. She pressed forward, willing the wolf, willing Cale, willing the bond itself to hold. Cale's golden eyes softened, recognition flickering through the shadow that had consumed him. He tried to reach her, tried to speak, and at that instant Lyra realized the truth of the bond. They were stronger together than apart. The curse that had driven him to rejection had underestimated the power of trust, courage, and the heart's unyielding will. But the shadows did not yield. Dark, twisting shapes lunged forward, reaching for them. The wolf growled and braced itself, but even together, Lyra and Cale felt the strain. The bond pulsed, a silver flame linking their hearts, and Lyra knew they had only moments to survive the veil's trial. As dawn approached, the mist began to thin, and the shadows retreated, but not entirely. Lyra's hands were trembling, her wrist glowing faintly, the crescent mark still alive, still pulsing with warning. Cale fell to one knee, golden eyes filled with awe and sorrow, and finally spoke. I tried to protect you, he whispered. I never wanted this for you. Yet I cannot let it go. I cannot leave you. Lyra reached out, brushing his face with a trembling hand. Then do not leave. Let the bond guide us. Let the moon decide our path together. The moment was fragile, electric, and full of unspoken promises. The wolf pressed close, nuzzling her, and Lyra felt the pulse of Cale's heart in tandem with her own. They were tethered, bound by something far older than fear, older than the curse itself. Hook. Cliffhanger. As they rose to continue their journey through the veil, Lyra felt the crescent mark flare violently, and from the shadows, a shape emerged, taller and darker than any she had seen, with eyes like molten silver. It spoke, its voice both terrifying and hypnotic. The bond has awakened, but do you have the strength to face what comes next? Lyra swallowed hard, heart pounding, as Cale tightened his hold on her hand. The next trial awaited, and neither of them could escape it. The shadow veil stretched endlessly before them, twisted trees clawing at the sky, their branches black as obsidian. Mist curled along the ground like restless spirits. Lyra and Cale walked side by side, the crescent mark on her wrist burning faintly, glowing in rhythm with the mark on Kyle's chest. The bond pulsed between them, a tether of light, fragile yet unbreakable. Kyle moved cautiously, every step weighed with exhaustion and fear. His golden eyes darted to every shadow, every whisper of movement. The wolf inside him prowled, restless, driven by a need Lyra could feel in her bones. Each heartbeat was a call, a reminder that the curse was not yet broken, that the veil itself had not finished its test. Lyra reached for his hand. The warmth of her fingers spread through his chest, easing the tension, calming the wolf that churned within him. You're not alone, she whispered. We face this together. The air thickened, heavy with the scent of something ancient. Magic older than the Silver Fang Pack, older than the moon itself. Shadows twisted unnaturally, taking shape, tall, dark, impossibly sharp. They moved toward them with silent, deliberate steps, whispering promises of pain, loss, and eternal separation. Cale's wolf growled low, a warning that shook the mist. But even as he braced, the shadows surged. Lyra felt the pull of the bond flare, fierce and bright. She closed her eyes and let the bond guide her. Reaching into the heart of Cale's soul, she sent him warmth, courage, and love. Not the timid kind, but the kind forged through trials and loss. The kind that could withstand even the darkness of the veil. The shadows recoiled, twisting and shrieking, but they did not vanish entirely. One figure stepped forward, taller than the rest, eyes burning like molten silver. It radiated power, the kind that made the ground beneath their feet tremble. Lyra felt her knees weaken, but Cale's hand gripped hers tightly. You've come far, the figure intoned, voice echoing through the veil. The bond is strong, but are you ready to face the truth of your connection? Lyra's pulse raced. She met Cale's gaze and saw the same determination mirrored in his eyes. We are ready, she said, voice steady despite the fear curling in her chest. The figure raised a hand, and the shadow surged forward. Lyra and Cale moved together, their bond flaring brighter, a crescent of silver light connecting their hearts. With every step, the bond pushed back the darkness, dissolving the shadows where the light touched. Lyra felt the warmth of Cale's soul, his struggle, his longing, and in response, she let her own strength flow into the connection. The wolf inside Cale leaped forward, golden eyes blazing, and met the figure in a clash of energy. Its growl shook the air, a sound that resonated through the veil. Lyra pressed her hand to her mark, feeling it burn with pure energy, and called to Cale, calling to the wolf, calling to the bond that tied them. The figure staggered, silver eyes widening. You are stronger than I imagined, it said. The bond. It is alive. Alive beyond fear, beyond rejection. Cale's wolf surged forward again, a golden shadow against the darkness, and Lyra felt the pull of the bond reaching a peak. Their connection flared like the moon splitting the night sky, a crescent of silver fire that swept across the veil. The shadows shrieked and dissolved, retreating into the corners of the forest, leaving only silence in their wake. Cale fell to one knee, wolf fading from him as he returned fully to his human form. His golden eyes were wide with awe and relief. Lyra knelt beside him, placing her hand on his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. The bond had survived the darkness stronger than ever. You saved me, Cale whispered, voice hoarse, trembling. I thought rejecting you would protect you, but I see now. It only made the bond stronger. Lyra smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from his face. The bond was never meant to be a burden. It is a promise, not a cage. You never had to bear it alone. For a long moment they remained there, chest to chest, hearts beating in unison. The crescent marks glowed faintly, not in warning now, but in harmony, a sign that the moon's choice had been fulfilled. The veil itself seemed to sigh, a gentle wind carrying away the remnants of shadow, scattering mist like silver dust. When they stood, Cale's hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally, as though they had always been meant to hold each other. Around them the forest seemed less menacing, the trees straightening, the mist lifting. Sunlight, pale and tentative, filtered through the branches, touching the crescent on Lyra's wrist with a soft glow. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the bond settle, calm and strong. We did it, she whispered. We survived the veil, together. Cale nodded, his golden eyes meeting hers with unspoken words, emotions too deep for speech. Together, he echoed. The wolf, their shared guardian, the spirit that had marked her in dreams, circled them one last time, eyes shining with approval before disappearing into the sunlight. It had completed its task, leaving them bound not by fear nor by obligation, but by choice, courage, and love. When they returned to the Silverfang pack, the members stared in awe. Whispers spread like wind through the trees, tales of Cale's disappearance, the curse, and the mysterious journey through the veil. But Lyra and Cale did not speak of every detail. Some things were sacred, meant only for the hearts that endured them. The elders approached, solemn and respectful. The bond. It has awakened, one said. The moon herself must have watched over you both. Cale bowed his head, humility softening his golden gaze. It was not just the bond, he said. It was trust, courage, and the strength of a woman who would not let me face darkness alone. Lyra's cheeks warmed, but she stood tall. She had been tested, rejected, marked, and chased through shadows. Yet here she was, stronger, wiser, unbroken. And Cale, once distant and fearful, now walked beside her as an equal, the shadows that had haunted him now tamed by their shared courage. At night, the crescent marks remained, faint and glowing, reminders not of fear, but of what they had overcome. When Lyra closed her eyes, she no longer dreamed of shadows or warnings. Instead, she saw golden eyes that belonged to Cale, wolf, and man united, protective and tender, full of unspoken promises. And somewhere, beyond the veil of night and moonlight, the goddess of bonds watched. She smiled, her silver light casting a soft glow across the forest. The curse had been undone, the bond fulfilled, and yet a whisper lingered, carried on the wind. The bond is eternal. It will grow, it will endure, and it will always return to the hearts that are true. Lyra looked at Cale, their hands entwined, and felt the truth of that whisper. The night of rejection had been the beginning, not the end. Their story, their bond, was only just beginning, a tale written in moonlight, shadow and courage stronger than any curse, deeper than any fear. As they walked together through the forest, the Silverfang pack watching with awe and quiet respect, Lyra realized one thing: love, trust, and courage could overcome even the oldest of curses. And Kale, once distant and afraid, had learned the same. The moon rose high, silver and bright, casting a protective light over the pair. And for the first time, Lyra slept without fear. The crescent mark glowing softly, a promise of a future shared, a bond unbroken, and a heart no longer afraid of the night. The wolf had left the vale, but its spirit remained in the bond, alive in their hearts forever, and somewhere in the silver light of the moon a faint whisper carried through the night, a blessing, a promise, and a reminder: the bond endures. Always.